Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to completely demystify the hidden macroeconomic gears that are literally controlling your everyday life. We're pulling back the curtain on the invisible systems that dictate everything, from the price of your groceries to the actual value of your time.
Okay, so let's just jump right in by asking a pretty crucial question. Do you ever feel like you're trapped in this invisible economic matrix that you just don't fully understand? You work hard, you try to save up, but somehow it always feels like there's this unseen rule book you were just never given. Well, today, we are going to read that rule book together.
Section 1. Scarcity. Life's real problem. We've got to start right at the micro level, with the ultimate glitch of the universe. It's the foundational problem that absolutely no technology, not even AI, can actually solve.
That glitch? It's scarcity. See, human desires are basically unlimited. We want the premium house, the newest phone, unlimited free time, but resources are strictly limited. Because of this, we are forced to make choices, and this brilliantly illustrates that economics isn't just about money. It's really the study of decisions. Every single choice you make has an opportunity cost. The true price of anything you choose isn't the cash you hand over. It's the exact value of the alternative you had to sacrifice to get it. So every second you spend scrolling social media, that has a real opportunity cost.
Think about a 22-year-old student named Ravi. If he decides to binge a 3-hour web series tonight, the true cost isn't his streaming subscription. No way. The real cost is the permanent sacrifice of his exam grades tomorrow morning. He's literally paying for that entertainment with his future. Once you start seeing the world through this lens of opportunity cost, your entire perspective totally shifts.
Section 2. The illusion of markets and money. All right, now that we've got a handle on our individual choices, let's see how this all builds into the broader economic picture. So how do humans with limited time and resources actually survive? Through trade. Take Ravi and Amit here. Ravi is a broke student, but he has killer video editing skills. Amit is a busy corporate guy making great money who runs a YouTube channel on the side, but has zero time to edit. When they meet, magic happens. Ravi edits, Amit pays. But why doesn't Amit just edit it himself? It's because of comparative advantage. Even if Amit was a way faster editor than Ravi, Amit's main corporate job pays him significantly more. His opportunity cost for editing is just way too high, so he outsources it. This proves a pretty beautiful economic truth. No matter who you are, you have economic value to someone out there trying to save their own time.
Now, when you combine millions of these little trades, you get a market. And the market is driven entirely by incentives. Think about the highly emotional onion market in India. Point 1. Heavy rains destroy the crop. Supply crashes, but you still have over 1 billion people wanting onions for dinner. Point 2. The price skyrockets from 20 rupees to 100 rupees. People are furious. But that 100 rupees isn't just a price tag, it's a massive flashing signal. Point 3. Farmers see this huge profit signal and plant nothing but onions the very next year. Which leads to point 4. Supply completely floods the market and the price crashes right back down to 10 rupees. This whole sequence, that's Adam Smith's famous invisible hand at work. There's no dictator running this. It's just a silent mix of human desire, desperation, and math.
But obviously, trading laptops for onions, the old-school barter system, is incredibly inefficient. So humans invented money. Now, the crucial thing to wrap your head around here is that money has absolutely zero intrinsic value. From stones and shells back in the day to paper notes to today's digital pixels on your banking app, money is a pure illusion. It's fueled by exactly one thing: trust. If the central bank goes on TV tonight and declares your currency notes are no longer legal tender, your cash instantly turns into literal scrap paper. It is pure collective belief.
And here's where it gets absolutely wild. Most people think a bank is just a safe little locker room where your money sits. That is a massive myth. Through something called fractional reserve banking, when Amit asks for a one-lock car loan, the bank manager doesn't go back to a vault and pull out someone else's cash. They literally just type ones and zeros on a computer keyboard, and boom, new money is born out of completely thin air. Banks don't actually hold enough cash for everyone. The entire matrix works flawlessly, unless of course everyone panics and demands their physical cash at the exact same time. That's what causes a bank run.
Section 3. The truth about GDP and inflation. Let's pull that curtain back even further and expose the glaring flaws in the giant scoreboards governments use to measure all this fabricated money.
The ultimate scoreboard for any country is its GDP, gross domestic product. It measures the total market value of all final goods and services produced. Now, high productivity, like a farmer upgrading to a tractor, drives GDP up and makes a country rich.
But this massive scoreboard has a critical blind spot that global institutions just kind of ignore. Let me show you exactly how devastating that flaw is. On one hand, Ahmed goes out and buys 500 rupees worth of unhealthy junk food. The economy cheers, GDP goes up. But then look at Meena, a homemaker. She wakes up at 6 a.m. and works nonstop until 11 p.m. She's a chef, a tutor, a nurse, and a financial planner for her house. If you hired professionals for all that, it would cost tens of thousands. Yet, because she doesn't get an official salary, the GDP scoreboard counts her immense 17-hour daily labor as absolute zero. And it gets worse. If a chemical factory pollutes a river, its profits boost the GDP. But the diseases and environmental damage, not subtracted. GDP is like a thermometer. It shows you the fever, but it completely hides the underlying disease.
And while we're talking about hidden flaws, we absolutely have to talk about the silent thief living in your bank account: inflation. Former RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan explained this perfectly with DOSA economics. Say Amit puts 100 rupees in the bank at a really great 10% interest rate. Next year, he has 110 rupees. He feels great, right? But last year, his favorite masala dosa cost 100 rupees. Due to a 12% inflation rate, which often happens when a central bank prints too much money, that same dosa now costs 112 rupees. So Amit has higher numbers in his bank account, but he's actually poorer. He literally can't even afford the same meal he could a year ago. That is the illusion of inflation.
Section 4. Global trade and taxes. So, if money is constantly losing value and banks are just typing it into existence, how does the government actually fund this giant matrix? And how do countries play this game on a global level?
The answer, unsurprisingly, is taxes. Now, direct taxes, like income tax, are progressive, meaning the rich pay more. But honestly, very few people actually pay those. The real safety net for the government is indirect taxes, like GST. And this creates a pretty harsh reality known as the regressive tax trap. If billionaire Mukesh Ambani buys a 50 rupee packet of snacks and a daily wage laborer buys that exact same packet, they both pay the exact same indirect tax to the government. Proportionally to their income, that poor laborer is feeling 1,000,000 times more burden than the billionaire for the exact same item.
Globally, countries fund themselves through international trade, and that is a massive double-edged sword. I mean, globalization is the whole reason you have an incredibly powerful, totally affordable smartphone in your pocket right now. But free trade also means cheap foreign goods can flood in and wipe out local factory jobs. Plus, the foreign exchange rate completely dictates our reality. If the local currency depreciates against the dollar, your country's IT exporters throw a massive party because they're suddenly earning way more. But at the exact same time, importing crude oil becomes wildly expensive, which sends your daily petrol prices through the roof. Everything is deeply connected.
Section 5. Labor, wealth, and the poverty trap. Finally, let's get into the most personal and, honestly, the most painful part of this entire system. Let's talk about your job, your wealth, and the heavy psychology of poverty.
300 times. Just let that staggeringly huge number sink in for a second. This represents the modern wage gap. Amit works incredibly hard, 10 hours a day, at his corporate job. Yet the CEO of his company, who seemingly just bounces between meetings, makes 300 times Amit's salary. Does that CEO really work 300 times harder? Is he somehow putting in 3,000 hours a day? Of course not.
The crucial thing to understand here is the replacement reality. The truly harsh reality of capitalism is that your salary is almost never based on how hard you work. It is strictly based on how difficult you are to replace. On one side, we have high supply labor. A standard coder or a data entry clerk can be replaced by another graduate with a weekend of training, or even by AI now. High supply equals low wages. But on the flip side, individuals who can successfully steer a multi-billion-dollar global corporation, they are incredibly rare. Low supply plus high demand equals a 300x wage jump. Whether we like it or not, we are treated as commodities in the labor market.
So, if the market is supposedly this hyperlogical, math-driven machine that perfectly prices everything based on supply and demand, we have to ask a deeply uncomfortable question. Why do the poor remain trapped in poverty generation after generation?
For the longest time, textbook economics lazily assumed poor people just didn't work hard enough or didn't know how to save. But Nobel laureates Abhijit Banerjee and Esther Duflo prove that completely wrong through behavioral economics. You see, poverty isn't a lack of character. It's a state of extreme biological stress and an almost complete lack of hope. If a laborer gets a spare 500 rupees, a textbook says they should invest it for a tiny return 5 years down the line. But in reality, their daily life is so incredibly stressful that their brain demands immediate relief. They might buy a nice meal today or put a down payment on a TV on EMI, choosing immediate psychological survival over cold, rational, long-term investing. The system demands that we act rationally, but our human brains, they operate on psychology.
Let's zoom all the way out for a second. All of these concepts we just talked about, scarcity, banking, labor, the poverty trap, they all operate under massive national models. The world basically runs on three flawed systems. Capitalism is driven by profit. It's an amazing engine for innovation, but its fatal flaw is that it naturally creates monopolies and massively widens the wealth gap. Socialism aims for total equality by having the government control everything, but practically, it completely kills personal incentive, which is exactly why the USSR collapsed. And then you have the mixed economy, like we see in India. It attempts this really delicate balancing act, allowing giant capitalist forces like Tata and Reliance to build massive wealth while simultaneously running government hospitals and safety nets for the vulnerable. None of these models are perfect.
And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into these hidden rules of money and life. We've seen exactly how banks invent money, how inflation quietly steals it, how your salary is truly calculated, and the harsh biological realities of poverty. Because the truth is, those who fail to understand this hidden economic rule set are totally destined to remain trapped in its invisible gears, always reacting to prices and constantly struggling against forces they can't even see. So I want to leave you with this final thought. Now that you've actually seen the code, are you going to remain trapped in the cycle, or will you use this knowledge to master the rules of the matrix? Think about it. Thanks so much for joining me on The Explainer, and keep learning.